Welcome to Startup Success, the podcast for startup founders and investors. Here you'll find stories of success from others in the trenches as they work to scale some of the fastest growing startups in the world. Stories that will help you in your own journey. Startup Success starts now.
Thank you again for both of you for being here. Tony, let's start with you. If you could set the stage for us and let us know, what motivated you to found Oyster and your background that led you to it. I think that would be really helpful for the listeners to set the stage.
Yeah, absolutely, Kate. So for the audience, Oyster is a global employment platform. So we help any company hire anyone, anywhere. Essentially, what we're doing is making planet Earth as one employment market. And why I founded this company, because I was born in Lebanon, a country with very little economical opportunity, and a lot of young people has to leave, as I did. I left when I was 17 to the West for better economical opportunities. And I realized that in today's age, that's not necessary anymore. People can stay in their home countries, can stay in their communities, in their tribe, and still have access to amazing job opportunities in more developed economies. Just to give you some data point, there are 80 million jobs going unfulfilled in Western economies due to lack of talent, while at the same time, we expect 1 billion knowledge workers coming into the workforce in the next decade, mostly from emerging economies. So it became clear to me that building a platform that makes global hiring as easy as local hiring, you can not only build a big business quickly, but you can also reduce wealth inequality and reverse brain drain.
I love it, especially because for startups, it's all about capturing that talent early on, which is very difficult and competitive and can be very expensive. If you wouldn't mind, because we have so many founders listening, could you tell us quickly how this platform works so they can understand?
Yeah, so if you, let's say you found Mary, she's an amazing AI developer in Athens, right? You are a startup in London or New York, right? And you want to hire Mary, but you're not going to go and spend 6 months finding a lawyer in Athens, an accountant, a payroll provider, a benefit provider. You don't want to have an HR person knowledgeable with the Greek market. So all of that we do for you. You go on our platform and we extend an employment contract for Mary. We give her great benefits. We onboard her on the payroll and we take care of her employment for the duration of that employment. So to do that, we build a global employment platform in 150 countries. And on top of that, we're using software and AI to make global employment few clicks away.
That's excellent. It sounds like it's very turnkey for founders, right? Like it would be just, you can just get going right away. And we hear from that, all about that from founders, how they struggle with finding talent. Is that what motivated you to found Oyster? Is you ran into this, or you just, what was your motivation?
Yeah, I was there. I started my first technology business in 2010, was an API business for building communication applications. And we employ people in 40 countries. And I realized how difficult it was. We had to build our own internal Oyster, and that cost us millions of dollars. And we wanted to create this great employee experience across the world, and we failed. But then I realized that actually the most dedicated and the most committed and the happiest talent were the one in emerging economies that are working for us. So it struck me like, what needs to happen for creating this seamless cross-border employment experience? So it's not an excuse anymore for companies to venture into hiring anywhere on this planet.
I love that. I can hear your passion, and that's great. Lots of times we get founders on here and they're very passionate about what they started, but then they stay in the CEO role for a little too long. And that's why we have Hadi joining us here today, because you've done something that I think a lot of founders struggle with, but they don't know when to make the move. And that is you found a CEO, you found your replacement. Tell us about that. And Hadi, tell us a little bit about, your experience with this.
So a year and 3 months ago, I
Okay.
approached my board
Okay.
with an opportunity they cannot refuse,
Okay.
designed to make Oyster more successful than anybody has ever imagined. And the key variable is to change a new CEO to a new one.
Wow.
And
They
they've
must have been
listened.
shocked. Were they shocked though?
They were shocked, but quickly they aligned
Okay.
and they saw what I saw. What I saw was that I was absolutely the right leader to start this company 6 years ago. But I also saw that this business has become too big too quickly for me to lead to the next level. And I knew that I could hire amazing people like Hadi that are specialized in that stage of the business. And as the major shareholder of this organization, I had a conflict of interest. Will I go on it with myself, learn, make mistakes, put at risk my big investment,
Mm-hmm.
or I let go my attachment to the CEO role and I unleash the potential of this organization?
Wow, I love the way you framed that. It being the biggest shareholder, that's what drove the decision. I don't think a lot of founders see it that way. So, Hattie, when Tony first approached you about this, what were your thoughts? Because I would be a little nervous to fill those shoes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But at the same time, I think when Tony shared, obviously you heard the passion,
Yes.
you heard kind of why he founded the company, and there are a lot of parallels with my personal experience, and I think that played a really, really big role. So I'm also actually from Lebanon,
Okay.
and I had to go through the same journey of having to leave, my country in search of opportunity because I knew that staying there, I would not have access to the opportunities that I've had over the last few years. And so I decided to leave. And, leaving means you leave your family, you leave your community, you leave, everything behind. And so when he talked to me with this passion about what he is, working on, it felt very personal. It felt kind of deeply personal. It resonated. Like this is the problem that I would love to contribute, to help with alleviating this, to make sure that there is opportunity at a more global level. And so immediately kind of the opportunity itself resonated. And then from a business perspective, I had worked at you alluded to it earlier, at a number of companies that were going through the scale-up phase, right? And they were looking to grow their teams at an international level, whether it was Facebook growing in the Middle East or Airbnb growing in Africa, or even later Coursera trying to set up in France. I saw the need for kind of this specific service, right? For something that is, turnkey, where there is a company that provides a high level of service and gives you access to all of effectively the HR services at a local country without needing to build your own internal infrastructure. And so I truly saw that need, that, from a business perspective, it really is there. So the size of the opportunity was also very exciting. And then, of course, spending time with the people, learning more about the culture that Tony and the team have built. And, you put all of this together, and it was, really exciting to join Oyster at this point.
Right. Right. I love that you had the shared passion. Tony, that makes a lot of sense that you thought of Hattie because, the same experience of leaving Lebanon and then the scaling challenges you talk about, you get it. You get the bigger picture, but then you had the business mindset to do this. Tony, what were some of the signals that you felt or saw that you knew it was time for you to step into a different role and find a new CEO? I think that would be helpful for the listeners.
Yeah. So it started with a 360 feedback that I received from my team that shows that the company needed me, the CEO, to to become more scalable, more structured, and more organized. And I knew that was not me. I knew if I would go there, I would lose my powers. And I have decided, instead of going in that direction, that I would actually want to make a change and not take any risks take less risks on my biggest investment in Oyster. So, and I did it for them. I did it because what they gave me was actually the job description of this new CEO. And this is exactly what I did. I created a job description based on this 360 feedback of what this organization need.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful lesson for people listening. Because so many people rave about the feedback and you only hear good things about it. But the fact that you actually listen to it and know yourself so well, I think that's where a lot of founders fall down. Their ego gets in their way. They don't want to see things. That's very complimentary to you. I mean, that says a lot about you as a person. But then, Hadi, how long are you currently in the role? Your current CEO.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the role?
A little bit less than 3 months now.
Wow. Okay. So what is that like, stepping in? Because Tony is this, I can tell just from my short time, dynamic, passionate, probably a very inspirational leader. That's got to be hard to fill those shoes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think, look, it comes also from making sure there is the level of alignment even before I started.
Oh, good.
I think that was really important. So we had spent a lot of time together before that to kind of align fully on what we are trying to achieve. I think the alignment around kind of the mission, the values was also really important. Spending time with the team, even before I start working on the plan for this year, I think, creating that level of alignment before starting was really, really important. And then working on kind of how we want to communicate it and being very intentional about how we communicate it to the team as well. So they understand this is a very intentional transition. This is a transition that's coming from a position of strength, that there is real alignment between Tony and myself. I think was really helpful to step into the role, and it creates that buy-in from the team immediately at the beginning. And it's important to recognize, as I'm coming into this role, I'm not Tony, right? Like Tony has done, is the right person, like he said, for the first chapter of the. He is obviously a loved figure. He's the founder. People connect with him. Customers know him very well. So I'm not him. I bring something different. And I think that's kind of also important to share with the team. And as part of the communication, also being very clear in terms of what doesn't change, right? The mission doesn't change. The values don't change. But also then being as clear about what are the things that I'm going to bring, right? We are going to focus on setting a longer term strategy, focusing more on how we set the operations to deliver on that strategy. So maybe the different set of skills that I bring and explaining why that makes sense at this point in time for the company. I think all of these steps were really important to then be able to step in, having built that level of trust with the team, and then listening to the team, understanding what's working, what's not working, what are some of the key areas that we really need to focus on to continue to kind of build on the very strong foundations that Tony and the team had built before.
Wow, I hear a lot of really strong things there. I mean, alignment, that's key. I don't see a lot of executive teams having a lot of alignment. So the fact that you two, pursued that early on, and all the feedback you get from your team at Oyster, that can be only helpful, I'm guessing, right? It sounds like you've built a really strong culture. And then you're right, so many times it's in the execution of startups. We talk about it all the time on this show of where they fail. It's that big scaling leap, and the fact that you're now going to focus on all the operations to make that scale happen is, I'm sure, super inspiring for the team. What about customers? Because they can always get a little nervous with these changes.
Yeah, and I think, you treat them as you treat the team, right? And we've had the, communication also to our customers to, again, explain why we are making the transition. to also reassure them that kind of, we pride ourselves on the service and the kind of human level service that we provide to them, that's not going to change. And I spent the last, I would say, months to 6 weeks or so, actually speaking to many of our customers, right? And that's part of building the relationship with them, building that connection, reassuring them, but also, again, understanding, what they value the most about Oyster and what additional things we could support them with. And it's kind of that connection that you build, that clear communication that you establish with them, that helps build that trust, right? And reassures them that, what we are really good at, will continue to be good at. And if anything, we will, develop even more to improve our level of service for them going forward.
Makes a lot of sense. So Tony, it's been 3 months. What's your role now at Oyster?
Yeah, so now I am the executive chairman,
Okay.
and what that means in this context is that I am at service of this organization from my place of strength, my skill set, and I am working with Hadi to be an advisor to him and the team. And I am one supporter and protector of the mission and the culture. And I have a little bit more sleep.
That's nice. That's nice. Do you miss it at all? Are you fully embracing the change? I think a lot of founders listening would want me to ask if you have any regrets. I have to ask. Sorry, Hadi. Doesn't sound like he would, but I have to ask. It's hard to give that position up, I'm assuming.
I have absolutely no regret. I'm so happy for Oyster, for Hadi, and I'm so grateful for the team because they embrace this transition full on, and that enables me to relax and actually heal from, I don't know, 25 years in business, right? I'm intentionally making what I call a business cleanse, where I'm not dealing with business outside Oyster and just focused on my healing and my sleep.
That's great. I think it really shows how well you know yourself. Again, I've worked for and interviewed so many of these founders who have huge blind spots around their leadership and when it's signals and listening to feedback that might be hard to hear. So that's great. Now, Hadi, moving forward, you're going to focus on helping the company with scaling and whatnot. What else are you looking forward to?
So yeah, I think the main focus is how do we take that next step? And as part of that, it's defining what is our long-term strategy as well, right? So Oyster scaled up very quickly. The team has done a really, great job last year building strong foundations for us. And the key question I'm addressing with the team now is where do we go from here, right? What customer do we want to serve? What are the services that we, and the pain points that we can address for them? How can we do it in a unique way in the market? And so that's the piece of work that we are really focused on right now. And from that, we can then kind of walk back and say, here are the things that we need to invest in. Here are kind of also the investments we need to make in the team. Here is kind of operationally how we want to operate. But setting that longer term direction from here is one of the biggest focus areas right now.
That's great. And I don't know, either one of you, if you could share this, because I think it kind of lines up with what you were just talking about, the benefits startups can have, again, from thinking more globally about their hiring. I know our company now has a team in Sri Lanka and India. We're just taking off with these teams, and it's huge opportunities for both of them. If you could talk to that, because I think a lot of founders listening have hesitations sometimes.
Access to talents first. So speed, faster hiring of the best talent in the world. If you're restricting yourself and hiring in 20-mile radius from your headquarters, you only have access to less than 1% of the employable talent, right? So if you really want the best talent, you want the world to be your oyster when you're looking for that talent.
Oh, I like it.
But that also increases the diversity. If you hire beyond borders, you have a bigger chance of creating more diverse organization. I mean, Oyster, we are 100 nationality from 70 countries. We are hyper diverse from a gender standpoint. And I would say also you can actually improve your cost base as well, because if the hiring cost of an engineer in an emerging economy is still cheaper than hiring them in tier one cities in the world. So you have that economical opportunity as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's what it really comes down to. It's that access to talent, and you could do it potentially at a lower cost, but it also helps you expand internationally when you are thinking about expanding internationally. And I think that's what you really get from using a service like Oyster. And if you think about it kind of going forward, the impact that AI will also have on jobs too, you will want to access the best talent with AI skills across any of the functions that you have, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's software development, and getting that access to this very big pool of talent. That's what it really enables. And fundamentally, that's, I think, what's going to power companies in the future.
Yes, I think you're both spot on, and especially with AI, things are moving so fast now, and companies, we're seeing them get these incredible funding rounds, and they've got to quickly scale teams, and meet deliverables. So the way you broke it down is really helpful. We always wrap up the show with parting advice for the startup founders listening. Anything, you both have worked for a lot of companies, helped scale them. Hadi, we'll start with you. For those listening, any last words of advice you can give them? It's a tough journey.
It's a tough journey. I think also the one piece of advice and kind of part of the reason for this transition is the journey kind of changes quite dramatically as well, right? Going from from 1 to 10 is very different than sometimes going from 10 to 100. And people can follow different paths. Yeah, you can kind of learn those skills over time, or you can also find other people who have done it before. But I think it's recognizing that there is sometimes a shift, and sometimes it's triggered by the level of complexity that you end up having in a company as you scale the team, as you scale the business as well. And then at that point, recognizing that a different type of leadership and management is needed, and figuring out how you want to do it. You can build, you can buy, you can partner, right? There are different ways of doing it, but recognizing that shift is happening and preparing for it, as kind of Tony has done in this case, I think is really important.
Yes, I wish more founders would take that advice. Tony, what about you?
My advice to founders is to align what they do with what they believe in, essentially being mission driven on a mission that is bigger than oneself. And when I realized with Oyster was an experiment for that. When I align what I believe in with what I do, then the world opened up for me. Great people like Hadi show up in my life, right? New business opportunity open. My competition get into trouble, right? So I feel like this alignment gives a lot of healthy power for the founder and the organization.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that alignment too is probably what gets you through those difficult times, because the mission and your passion for it is stronger than the difficulty you're facing. Absolutely. Thank you both for being here. For those listening that want to learn more about Oyster, where should they go?
They can come to our website, oysterhr.com. They can reach out to any of us on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing the story of the transition. We have not covered it on the show. It's fascinating. And from what I can tell, it's going to be a great move. So thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
It is a great move. Thank you for having us.